In 1887, these three things I know were true. Mr. Grover Cleveland was president in his first non-consecutive term. The United States did not yet have all 50 states. And last time we left off, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs were playing in the World Series. That's right, folks. We are back here at Sports Talk Live in the MLB Time Capsule. Before I click on the intro, just to let you all know, I'm using a microphone that I have, so hopefully you all can hear me better. And I have updated the logo on my YouTube channel, and I've managed to get two more logos. One with the logo in back of Michigan Stadium, and one in the back of Soldier Field. I plan for one too for Yankee Stadium when baseball season's around. I just have to work on that one, and they'll be for whatever topics we're talking about, and for whatever season it is. Since college football will be starting soon, I'll be having the Michigan logo up probably until about like mid-October. Then I'll be switching over to Bears logo. Because I want to have at least Michigan up for part of football season and then Chicago for the rest. And after that, we'll probably switch over to Duke. I'll have one here with them and Cameron indoor. But anyway, let's get the countdown started and let's get into this. So, 1887 is here. Before we go further, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It is now Sports Talk Live. Be sure to subscribe to that for more great videos to schedule. For now, we're going to be doing this once a week, hopefully twice a week, and we will be starting live streaming once college football starts. I've been looking at ways to do that, and that's what we're going to try to do both on Twitch and on YouTube. There is a membership package out for Stream that you can get a discount on, so I might be, or on Steam now, so I might be looking at that. But we'll have to see what happens. But that's something in the future that I plan to do. But anyway, so last time we left off in the MLB Time Capsule, we were discussing the 1886 World Series and the St. Louis Cardinals, were the team that would become them, which was the St. Louis Browns, won the World Series over the Chicago Cubs. So now, this time around, the St. Louis Cardinals are back for the third time, and they're facing a team called the Detroit Wolverines. And this was a 15-game, the only 15-game World Series in history. St. Louis won 10 games to 5, so we have the Detroit Wolverines, led by manager Bill Watkins, with a record of 79, 45, and 3.5 games ahead. And the St. Louis Cardinals, led by manager Charles Kaminsky, who you will hear about later. He is the future owner of the Chicago White Sox, but they don't exist right now. So just pretend you've never heard of the White Sox. You don't know who they are. You have no clue that they're going to be a team because they're not a team yet. With a record of 95, 40, and 3 and a .669 winning percentage, 14 games ahead. So, this series is part of the pre-modern World Series annual competition between the National League and the American Association. Before the American League, the Wolverines, who had been in the league since 1881, had spent a significant sum of money to bring star players to Detroit. The investment paid off with the championship, but not in money. Detroit was not yet the Motor City, was not yet ready to support Major League Baseball. The Tigers are coming later. Right now, the Tigers don't exist. Just pretend you've never heard of the Tigers. You don't know who they are. And sadly, this would be the only World Series that they win, as they would fold after the 1888 season, so they didn't even last more than, I think, they didn't last more than 7 seasons before they folded. So, they defeated the Browns 10 games to 5 after they won. The owner challenged the American League champion St. Louis Browns, so the Cardinals used to play in the American Association before they moved to the National League. The Wolverines and Browns would play a series of contests for supremacy. So the World Series consisted of 15 games played in Pittsburgh, Brooklyn, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis. So they were all over the place. So in all those cities, you could watch them. So normally we go into these games a lot, but because there's so many games, we're going to go through them sort of fast here. So we had game one, October 10th, Sportsman's Park in St. Louis. The Cardinals, that's what I'm going to refer to them as. They beat Detroit 6-1. Then game two, which was the next day, October 11th, Detroit wins 5-3. Game three, Detroit takes a 2-1 series lead in 13 innings at Recreation Park in Detroit. Yes, Recreation Park. The Tigers beat St. Louis 2-1. And game four of the series, Detroit wins again. Played at a Recreation Park in Pittsburgh this time. Detroit wins 8-0 against St. Louis. Game five, St. Louis wins 5-2. Played in Washington Park in Brooklyn. Then game six, Detroit wins 9-0 in the Polo Grounds in New York. Yes, those Polo Grounds that we will get to someday. Now, you notice that all of these games, with the exception of between 6 and 7, there was at least a 1 day span between them. So October 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 17th. Now it'll be the 18th. Detroit wins game 8, 9-2. Played at Union Ball Grounds in Boston. And then game 9, October 19th, Detroit wins again in the Jefferson Street Grounds in Philadelphia 4-2. Game 10, October 21st. Now this is strange. There was 2 games played October 21st. The first one, St. Louis won at the Swampoodle Grounds in Washington. And then October 21st, same time, Detroit beat St. Louis 13-3, played at Oriole Park. Now, don't mistake this for Oriole Park at Camden Yards. That's not what this is. This is older Oriole Park. There used to be a team called the Baltimore Orioles that you will see later, and they become one of the most famous teams. But right now, we don't know who they are. The New York Yankees. Game 12, St. Louis wins in 7 innings, 5-1. Played at Washington Park in Brooklyn. Game 13, Detroit wins 6-3. Played at Recreation Park in Detroit. October 25th. So game 12 was October 22nd. Game 13 was October 24th. October 25th, game 14, St. Louis 3, Detroit 4. Played at Westside Park in Chicago. And game 15, October 26th, St. Louis wins 9-2. Played at Sportsman's Park in St. Louis. Now, normally what we do is we go through these games in depth. In the last couple of these, I've gone through some of the statistics and talk about who won and who lost. But because there's so many games here, we're not going to be able to do that this time. So we're just going to read some of the summaries. We're not going to read them all. So the October 9th, the St. Louis Browns ended their season with a 95-40 record, a win total that was not exceeded until the adoption of the 154-game schedule. October 10th, the World Series opened in St. Louis with the Browns beating Detroit 6-1, or the Cardinals. The pitcher, Bob Crothers, held the Wolverines to 5 hits and had 3 hits himself. Robert Lee Crothers, nicknamed Parisian Bob, he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he was a 2-time American Athletic Association wins champion and the ERA champion in 1885. Game 4 began its tour of other cities. Detroit won 8-0 behind the 2-hit pitching of Lady Baldwin, Charles B. Baldwin. He was the National League wins leader in 1886 and the strikeout leader that year as well. October 14th in Game 5, the Browns beat the Wolverines in Brooklyn 5-2. In Game 6, played in New York, Detroit beat St. Louis 9-0. Detroit's pitcher took a no-hitter, not counting walks in the 9th, but settled for a 3-hit game. Somebody named Charlie Gansel playing in first base in place of Dan Brothers, one of the greatest players of all time. He led Detroit with 4 hits. He was out for the series with a sprained ankle. And on a side note here, what I plan to do if this is successful, I plan to expand this out to see if we can cover players and all that, but that's something way later down the line to do. Then October 17th, Detroit won Game 7 by a score of 3-1 in Phillies Park. No, the Phillies are not around yet. That's what it was called. October 18th, Detroit beat the Browns 9-2 at the old Dartmouth Street grounds. October 19th, Detroit won by a score of 42 at Athletics Park and extended its World Series lead to 7-2. October 21st, after a rainout, they played 2 games in 2 cities. In the morning, they played in Washington, and the Browns pulled off a triple play an 11-4 victory. And in Game 11, Detroit clinched the championship with his 8th victory, 13-3. And then on October 22nd, the Cardinals managed to pull off, I'm going to use them interchangeably here. They managed to pull off a 5-1 victory in New York, but the game was canceled after 7 innings due to the cold. So less than 1,000 people attended the game. Dan Brothers finally managed to appear in the game. October 24th, the teams played in Detroit, where they were met at the Depot by a large delegation of baseball cranks. The procession of carriages headed by a band was formerly the club's escort to the Russell House, where public reception was held. 4,000 people attended this game, which was won by Detroit. October 25th, the Wolverines scored 4 runs early and held on to beat the Browns, or the Cardinals 4-3. With the temperature below freezing, there were between 300 and 400 people present. And then October 26th, the World Series ended with the final game in St. Louis. The Cardinals won the final game but lost the series 10-5. So if you have been keeping track in this series since we started this here, we now have the Providence Grays with 1. We now have the Chicago Cubs with 1. We have the St. Louis Cardinals with 1. And we now have the Detroit Wolverines with 1 World Series. So there are 4 different teams, 4 different World Series. You will never see a 15-game series again in the World Series. I don't know as a baseball fan if I would like that, because there were so many games, so many different places. The team with the worst record won, by the way. Detroit was 3.5 games ahead. St. Louis was 14 games ahead, and Detroit still beat them. We will see a Detroit-St. Louis World Series eventually in the future. Yes, you're going to see that. I believe it's only happened twice when we get there. So that was 1887. Kind of wanted to get through this one fast, though, too, because there was so many games to play and all that. So hopefully in the future we can return to the more regular looking through it and all that. But yeah, that next year will take us to 1888. And folks, the St. Louis Cardinals return once again for the final time in the 4th consecutive year. Yes, the 4th consecutive year. You will not see them again in pre-modern era World Series, so they're back. And this time they're going up against a team that should be familiar to some people, the New York, aka San Francisco Giants. That's right, the Giants' first appearance on this list. It's going to be an interesting series. Can St. Louis win their second World Series? Or will the Giants add one to their own, where we get 5 different teams in the first 5 World Series? You'll have to wait and see. Anyway, I want to thank everybody here for watching and listening. I know that I've been on and off with this, but now we're going to establish more of a schedule. It's going to be at least once a week. I'm going to try to do these hopefully twice a week. I will let you all know the days. I'm looking at possibly Monday, and I hope Thursday, but we'll have to see as we go on through the year if I can do Monday and Thursday. If I have to change it, I will let you know. But yeah, hopefully I'm excited to see what we can do for a live stream. We may not do a super long live stream for college football. What I plan to do is just go live for a few minutes or hours, just look at the scoreboard, go over some of the scores and all that. I'll be doing it later at night so we can get a recap of the day games. Now, the first couple of weeks are going to be boring games because I think like the first like 3 weeks is pretty much the top tier teams playing cookie cutters or playing cupcakes. So they're gonna beat them, and they're gonna beat them bad. So you're gonna see teams that will win that are supposed to win. But yeah, I will see you guys soon. And if I do end up upgrading as well to the core, I will let you all know as well. It's something I'm looking at doing here for StreamYard. But be sure to subscribe to Sports Talk Live on YouTube. Hopefully, we can continue to grow this now that I'll be doing this regularly. And if you like what you see, let me know what you would like me to do in the future. And if you want to be a part of it, let me know. And I thank you all for watching. And y'all have a great night. And I will see you next time.